My name is Todd Correia. I am chief of the Fairhaven Fire Department. I got involved in the fire service back in 1993 and got hired in full-time in 1995, and I became chief in January of 2021. Our personnel, whether it's our deputy chief, our administrative assistant, a lieutenant on duty, can look at any residence commercial structure here, know the last time it was inspected, last time their smoke detector was done, what are the plans attached to that, what is the building layout, if we have building inspection plans on that, that's tied into that software. It's a one-stop shop all, and it's really going to fine-tune your data needs and centrally locate all your files. I'm a data guy. I love computers. My father-in-law was an IT guy. I took some college courses in IT. So data obviously drives money. It drives what you need for the future. So the existing software we were using didn't provide that data, and the report writing was clumsy. It was not user-friendly to our personnel. And even just an exposure report was a hassle. It was a nightmare just to do an exposure, whether it was a car or a boat or a neighbor's fence, was just a nightmare component. So we were looking for a software that would kind of take a user-friendly approach to the infers reporting, but at the same time combine everything else into one platform. So we were looking for, without a lack of a better word, the mothership that would kind of control all our data processes and have one location where we could find building records, we could find the pre-fire plans, we could find the infers report, we could track how many times we went to one residence at one time, how many times we go to an area of this town, how many times we go to an elderly apartment complex a year. And then we were shopping around, and I happened to run into stationSMARTS at an FCAM conference. And at that, they kind of introduced me to it. I could not be more happy with where stationSMARTS is now, what it's doing for our organization, and where it's going for the future. My initial goals was to get a better reporting. So obviously, I talked about earlier that a lot of our personnel weren't reporting things accurately. They weren't having the coding done efficiently. So with that, I needed a check and balance system. So I started stationSMARTS as a deputy chief. The previous chief, Timothy Francis, blessed me and told me go ahead, whatever I wanted to do, I could do. And then basically we started implementing a software where I wanted to have, first and foremost, the reporting done accurately. I knew that we were doing a lot more calls than we said we were doing. I knew we were doing more fire calls than we say we were doing, but there was no check and balance. The reports in the old system were typed in, they were printed out. Somebody saw that the numbers all went in line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they filed them away. There was no quality improvement, quality assurance. So that was my first goal, was to getting a reporting software that required somebody to check that report before it was filed away. And that's what stationSMARTS offered for me right off the bat. The second thing was pre-fire planning. We were very lacking in that, meaning that we had a 3-ring binder like most fire departments did. It hadn't been updated in almost a decade. The union was on us a little bit from a negotiation standpoint about re-emphasizing that priority for them, and I couldn't agree with them more. And it was a mutual goal of ours to kind of get that up and running. So stationSMARTS also offered that platform. So be able to tie in the residents to pre-fire planning and things like that, along with the hydrant locations, is what my primary objective was. I cannot say enough how responsive stationSMARTS is. It's as simple as if I had a server error, which has only happened once in the last 3 or 4 years I've had an issue, I can call somebody in the middle of the night and they're going to pick up that phone. To the point where I had a small little glitch yesterday I couldn't figure out on my own, that I could just dial into the tech team and they picked right up and answered my call almost immediately. Sometimes you find with some of the larger software developers, you're putting in a ticket and they're getting back to 3 or 4 or 5 days later. I think a fire service sometimes always needs that immediate response. We're working 24 hours, 7 days a week, not just Monday through Friday business hours. So in having that interaction after hours or during the weekends or an immediate notice to get things corrected has been awesome. I think the biggest impact I'm going to go back a little bit here. I think that we've corrected our issues with the reporting. We now know what the reportings do for us. Our numbers have increased, our fires have increased, everything's being reported accurately. I think the unexpected surprise with stationSMARTS was the inspection platform, knowing that we're tracking inspections. It's now a uniform data. It's now consistent among all our inspectors because we don't have that inspector by himself. It's either my deputy chief or our shift officers who are doing those inspections. So I think the phases, I think making sure your data is proper before they implement it in is key. Making sure you get it set up the way you want to set up. I mean, we were blessed with Heather who kind of told me I should do those things, and I could have done a better job personally to make sure before it got implemented. But I don't think implementation, I would have done any differently. I think the way we did it internally in Fairhaven, I didn't do a shock and awe with my guys. I did it stages. Here's the infers. This is what we're doing first, okay? And then 6 months later, here's the inspection process. We start off with 111 inspections only, right? We start off with that with July, and then January, I started training them in November, December. Here's how the fire safety inspections are going to go, and this is how we're going to do that. And then teaching those components. So now we do all our permitting, our burn permits, we do July 4th bonfires. That's all agricultural burns are all recorded on that. And I think they now see it. They now see that goal where everything's tied into one thing. And when one officer, for example, has an individual who is burning illegally or doing things wrong, he can flag that account, and then the officer who doesn't even see this guy through its course of his tour can see that this officer had a problem with that. So that integration, but integrating it and making it part, I wouldn't have done anything differently. I would tell any chief who's looking at this to seriously look at it. And my doors are always open if you want to come down here and take a look at it. I think that it's difficult to find a one-stop shop for all our data, and we're never going to achieve that. And I think stationSMARTS agrees with that. But as the mothership, as I talked about earlier, if you want that one platform that can kind of talk to different platforms or at least communicate with them in one way, fashion, or another, and centrally locate all your files, this is a definite consideration. I think you need to strongly look at it.